Hey everybody, Diggs here. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest. The clouds are coming in. We've got a beautiful 10-mile-per-hour wind. Oh, it's wonderful. Today we're going to be talking about Lemure. She is going to be a free unit granted to all players in the upcoming patch this Wednesday. We're going to ask, is she good? Is she worth it? There's some opinions out there that she's the next coming of Jesus. Jesus, of course, being Phoebe. Let's go ahead and talk about that and dig in. So Lemure is going to be a Time Mage, Scholar, and White Mage. Her TMR I actually think is very interesting and very viable for any unit that is a healer unit because it does have 158 magic, and what's special about this though is that it does have increased single target resistance 10 for self. This is going to be another defensive utility that if you're running your healers or if you're running like a soul healer, this could potentially be a best in slot item for them. Again, you know, situational, of course, a lot of times, you know, if you're running like a light element unit like Yuna, Prudus Lamina is going to be better, but definitely something to think about and a nice option to have. Her mastery ability is going to give HP 10%, dark attack 15, and for herself, she's going to get AoE resistance plus 10. Taking a look at her stats here, 3,100 HP, 474 magic, defense 6, agility 62. She comes in with 5% weakness to pierce, 10% weakness to fist, 5% weakness to missile, and 10% resistance to magic. So she is going to be a little bit tanky against magic. She has 10% resistance to silence, and she is fully resistant to confusion and petrify. Now, if we go through here and take a look at her passives, she does have, of course, CT Change Invalid, which most of us are used to. She has access to the Defensive Scholar passive, so that's going to be Defense 12, Accuracy 20. She's also going to have access to High Speed Chanting, which will decrease Activation Skill 250 for self. She has Nullified Doom for herself, and she also has Preliminary Chanting, which I would argue is just a better version of High Speed Chanting because it does decrease skill activation time, 200 for herself, but it also upgrades one of her Scholar abilities. So if you are going to be running her sub Scholar, which would mean she's a little bit more offensive than her sub White Mage, you are going to be probably setting Preliminary Chanting instead. Now, her counters, slow counter, obviously one of the best counters in the game, does get upgraded for her, and I think that is a huge deal. A chance to counter all damage 50%, right? So 50% chance to proc. And instead of just slowing the opponent with a really high percent chance to land, it's also going to decrease attack 39% and decrease magic 39%. So as long as she's able to survive a hit, which if you're going up against a unit who's slashing, for example, and you're running kind of the Scholar passives with that defensive up, she might be able to take a hit from Dwayne, and she might be able to land this counter, which could be pretty good. She also has access to counter Logos, which is just like a counter magic damage attack, and Regenerator, but I really think Break Counter is so good that you are not going to want to miss the opportunity to set it. Let's talk about her main kit because this is what everybody is talking about though. And her main kit for Time Mage, pretty good. Pretty big things here. She does have access to Quick and Stop. She has upgrade to an enhanced version of Stop, which has higher range. It actually has really long range. She also has Haste Gu. Now, if you do sub her Time Mage, you'll get Haste, Levitate, Slow, and Spatial Transition. Honestly, you're probably not going to be subbing her Time Mage. And, you know, the question is, just looking at this primary kit, is this powerful? Is this useful? Is this critical? And I would say this is one of those situations where this could be really good, especially if you're into live PvP. You're going to have access to both Haste Gu and Quicken, right? So you're going to be able to haste all of your units and you're going to be able to quicken them. You're going to be able to cast Meteor. You're going to be able to use Stop potentially. There's a lot of things here that are really good. If you are mostly a PvE player like myself, you know, there's a lot of good stuff here, but there's also a lot of stuff that, you know, you can get elsewhere, right? You could use, you know, for example, Phoebe, you know, this isn't a must level right away. And if you're wondering like, well, where would I use this in PvE? It's actually a pretty tough question, I would say. Of course, the element of her mastery ability is important and dark compositions are rampant. And, you know, I wonder if there is a world where having access to sub White Mage as like an assist to heal, even though we have Black Rose Helena for healing, could be good. Not really sure, but right now I do see definitely the viability of her from a PvP perspective. The other thing to consider as well is that she is a UR unit, so she is going to have a little bit more agility than Phoebe, so there is that to consider too. In terms of her sub jobs, I personally think that sub Scholar would be the best on her. I understand a lot of people are probably going to run her sub White Mage as a support, but I personally love Scholar job, and I do think the ability to have an upgraded version of Healing Law Flash, which makes it an instant cast, 220% modifier attack, which will decrease healing power 40 for 3 turns to target. That's a really powerful ability, and I think it's very underestimated. I think it's probably one of the most underestimated abilities in the game, and a lot of people don't have a lot of exposure with it because most people have not run Luel, and I personally do love Luel, and I love Scholar, and that's going to come into my kind of conversation about Summer El Sorel here tomorrow morning. But I definitely think that you should not discount sub Scholar, especially when you're able to buff more defense on yourself, when you're able to, you know, decrease your activation time even more. There's so much going on here that is powerful in a Scholar's kit that I think people underestimate. She does, of course, have access to sub White Mage as well. So she's going to have Esuna, Cura, Cure, Curaga, Protect, Raise. She is going to be lacking Arise and Full Life, and that's pretty big in my book. I really don't think you're going to be using Raise a lot. And the question is, right, is Curaga ever going to be important enough from a White Mage sub with Lemure that you couldn't get with like Black Rose Helena's subcalculator Cure or her main calculator Cure, wherever she gets her Cure from? Like, is this going to be better than that? Is this going to help that? There's a lot of questions to ask about that. And, I think for people who might not have Black Rose Helena, this could be a really good unit going into the future, considering all of the dark units that are going to be coming out. Of course, we are going to be getting the EX version of Kayn. We also have Lamaiga, which is going to be from the Dark Select quest. We're also going to be getting Prompto for free. And it really seems like Square Enix is trying to set up, when new players come to a game, there's usually a composition that's dominant or that makes a lot of, sense or power. And Dark has always been that sort of dominant force. And, with players leveling Ziza when they first come to the game or leveling Venera, giving out free dark units is a really good way to power up a new player's account. And that's kind of what feels like is happening here is, Lemure is going to be a really good way to, one, power up a new player's account who might not have Black Rose Helena, and two, help prepare you for Prompto, Lamaiga, Kayn, and as such, the rest that would be coming out in the near future. In terms of vision cards, you do run into a problem with Lemure in that the vision cards that are available for her are mostly going to be Black Rose Helena's VC, which, you're probably going to be running Black Rose Helena if you're already an experienced player, or you might not have this VC maxed out if you're not running Black Rose Helena. I would always recommend the Winter Party VC for just a generic magic VC on a unit, just because that area resist is so powerful. Or Diablos. And the problem with Lemure is that you might be transitioning to more generic vision cards because there are not a lot of vision cards with magic stats on them that would benefit Lemure, right? Because she's going to be a magic unit. That's where she's going to get her power. That's where she's going to get her attack. You might be putting Rama on. You might be putting Trousseau on, so on and so forth. So I do think there is problems kind of inherently with the vision cards that you might be able to put on her if you do not have the Black Rose Helena VC. In terms of Espers, there's also a little bit of a problem just because the amount of dark Espers that are out there and the amount of magic Espers are really, they are not, I would say, designed for mages. Diablos, of course, would be great and wonderful, Bloody Moon too, but the rest are pretty much just focused on offensive. And the question is, are you going to want to put Diablos on her, or are you going to put that on Black Rose Helena, which then is like, do you put Bloody Moon, for example, on her, or do you maybe go for Bahamut, or if you're a new player, do you even have access to Bahamut. So Espers could potentially be problematic for her too. You might just be putting on a generic magic Esper. So lots to consider. I do think though, potentially Siren 3-star, very similar with Summer Elserel, could be really powerful with Lemure and any other scholar that's kind of out, because Siren is going to have access when her 3-star form comes out to the ability to have reduced cast time as a node that you could unlock. So potentially for that reason alone, you may want to put Siren on Lemure, because she is essentially a time mage quicken haste whore. Yeah, that's about it, everybody. I love to hear your opinions about Lemure down below. And of course, we'll have our Summer Elserel video up tomorrow. I will be on live on stream tonight. I will be trying to finish out Pixel Remaster 3. So hopefully I see you guys there, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day.